Quarterback. This is Steve Sanson and Stephen Jonas with Veterans in Politics. Today we have a exciting show. We're going to have Lisa Mayo and Annette Dawson going to be talking about the Community School Initiative, CSI. Not the one you see on TV, but a different one. Steve, you got any rants?
Social media again. So it drives me crazy that people will put whatever they want on Facebook and, or Instagram or whatever, and that's fine. But when they post something that's blatantly like false or misleading, and it's not hit by the fact check, and we all know how independent fact checks is a bunch of crap. And then when somebody calls them out for it, they all of a sudden get upset about it. And it's like, okay, if you knowingly are posting something on a public space, be ready to answer for it. I mean, I'm not talking about attacking people or making it personal, but if you put something out there, be ready to answer.
Especially when you lie.
Yeah.
It's called defamation.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's
especially when you knowingly lie,
yeah,
is because your ass gonna pay.
And then when you get called out for it, then all of a sudden you start going, no, you're wrong, or whatever. It's like, no personal attacks, but if you want to share facts and have a conversation, have a conversation.
Well, I don't have any.
That's just that's about.
I want to get right into this and that business here. So, Lisa Mayo.
Yes, sir.
Could you give us a bio?
The bio of my bio?
Bio of your bio.
Okay, my bio.
Not your campaign candidate's bio.
Lisa
your bio.
Mayo Teresa. I'm the mother of 5 wonderful children.
Wow. Are you Mormon?
No, I'm an Italian Catholic.
It's 5.
I know, right away, that's the assumption. No, I'm Italian Catholic.
Oh, so you do drink?
I do drink a little bit.
You're not a Jack Mormon?
No, I'm not a Mormon. I'm Catholic.
Oh, you're not a Mormon?
No, I'm Catholic.
Okay, Catholic.
So, 5 children, 8 grandchildren.
Wow, you're busy beaver, huh?
I'm busy. I've owned my company, Mayo Associates, for 29 years. And that company consists of business development. My best project to date was the World Market Center, which I'm very proud of.
What did you do with the World Market Center?
I was the government outreach consultant and stakeholder consultant, and helped to work on the funding package for that.
So what happened to Mundo? George Harris.
I don't know. As soon as we built the World Market Center, very quickly after that, I joined with the management team that actually started it, and we started on another project. So I wasn't involved. But I go to the shows and everything. But restaurant business is hard. It's a tough business, and that
especially now.
Well, especially now, yeah. And he was in a tough spot because most of the time it's dark, except for 2 big shows a year, unless you know that it's
the there. It's kind of hidden.
And kind of hidden.
It's like a private club.
That's what he should have ran it as.
Because it has no frontage.
But the food was great, and the atmosphere was great. It was kind of cool. So, and I do run campaigns as also part of my career with First Tuesday. My partner Steve Forsythe.
Okay.
And I'm a community activist.
How's he doing, by the way, Steve?
He's doing great. He's great. And I'm a community activist. I like to say I've been on a lot of projects, everything from billboards and Save Red Rock and those issues. Save Red Rock. I was the first person that actually founded Save Red Rock. I don't live up there though, but I thought it was something worth saving. And I'm here today with a great group of ladies to
talk about CSI.
Talk about the communities. Our community school district initiative, our community school initiative, which is basically making our school district smaller.
Yeah, let me get Miss Annette Dawson.
Absolutely.
First, then we can go right into the CSI thing. Miss Dawson.
Yes.
Tell us your bio.
Thank you. It'll be short. I've been a lifelong and have been a product of the Clark County School District. So I went to school here.
Oh, you a teacher?
I was a teacher, yes. I got a master's in curriculum instruction from UNLV, and then went on to get an admin degree from Sierra Nevada College, and have always been concerned about why Nevada is consistently at the bottom for education. And so
For years.
And it wasn't always that way. My mother was a teacher too, and it was not always this way. But we consistently rank at the bottom, and so I started to ask questions about what are other states doing that we're not doing. So I was able to study high-performing schools across the country and find out some things that we're lacking here. And I believe that all students should have access to a good school. So my role had kind of switched to advocacy and making sure that every one of our students get access to a good school. So that's why we're here.
I got a quick question for you. And, for people that don't know, could you tell us the difference between a public school and a charter school?
You bet. Both are public schools. Okay. The basic difference between a charter school and a district school is that your district school you're zoned for. So, for instance, if I live here in this area, then the school that I'm zoned for is this school. But if there's a charter across, town, if I want to go to that school, I can go to it by putting my name in for a lottery. And a charter school has to take whoever applies to their school, pull from the lottery, and take however many seats that they have. So it's basically a zoning issue. They're both public schools. They both receive public dollars. A charter school has a little bit more of an uphill battle in that it also has to pay for its own facility. Currently, the way the laws are stated now, they have to use that per pupil funding to pay for their facility as well. But basically, why I don't care if a child goes to a district school, a charter school, a private school, if they use the education savings account, if they want to homeschool, we want every child to have access to a good school. And unfortunately, in our urban area, the core of our city, we have many schools that are failing and staying at one star for year after year after year. And if you're a child living in that neighborhood and that's the only school you can get to and have access to, you are not having the same opportunities that other students are having.
Isn't charter school harder? I mean, I know they're both public school, but isn't charter school harder than the district schools?
I wouldn't say no. And in fact, there's some district schools that are really doing great. There's some charter schools that aren't doing so great, right? So our magnet schools are amazing in the district. I wouldn't say that those are any harder or less hard than a charter school. Every charter school is different, but the point is that a parent and a family and a child should be able to determine what school is best fit for them. Maybe it has an art focus or a STEM focus, and they need to be able to have access to the good school that they want to go to.
Well, one more question regarding that. Because of COVID, a lot of charter schools were open, were given hybrid or we're given the hybrid, and the district schools were not. Why is that?
Because charter schools are able, and we're seeing this, are able to pivot a little bit easier because the decisions are locally based. So This school decides this is what our parents want and need, and we can respond to that. Whereas our district is the 5th largest in the U.S., and we were CCSD was the only one of the 17 out of the 18 school districts in Nevada were able to get back in school sooner than we have here at CCSD. We're so big, and this is why we're advocating for more local community control, that they weren't able to come up with a plan for 360,000 students. And so it was very difficult, not impossible, but it is harder, and every community was a little bit different. You've got Moapa that has certain needs and low cases of COVID that wanted to go back in and be running, but we can't do it for everybody. It was kind of that mentality.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for coming up. Same to you, Lisa. Tell us about the Community School Initiative.
I'm going to let Annette take the initial side of that because she wrote the language for our proposal, so I'll let her explain it, and then I can talk a little bit more about some of the issues and the media side of it. So, go ahead, Annette.
Back to you.
Back to her.
Yes, okay. And I actually, there is a group, none of us have sole responsibility for, or propriety to any of this, but there were lawyers that actually wrote the opt-out bill that we have, Bob Sweeten, Sam Castor. We've been following the reorg since 2015, where we hope that, each school will be able to gain the control, but that hasn't happened. So we have to keep finding solutions. But basically, this is an option. It's an option for communities. Through the pandemic, we've seen that communities want to serve their students. We've met with every municipality, and we've seen how Henderson created the Community Education Advisory Board. So they see which of their schools need supports, and they provide those. They use some of their marijuana funds and redevelopment funds to support that. We see North Las Vegas creating micropods to serve their students during the pandemic because they want to create options for their students and family pods. They are micropods. The city came up with several different things that are amazing in North Las Vegas. They'd have to talk to you more about that, but they create places in the community centers where students can come, and they could either go through the district curriculum with people using it, or they could have like a charter type curriculum, a totally different curriculum. But what we found was every community wanted to have local control to meet the needs of their students, and we saw them being innovative and doing that. And so every municipality wants to have more control of it rather than leave it up to the big districts. So this opt-out bill would just say, if a municipality or a township believes that they can serve their students better than the large district is, they have the ability to opt out, to come up with a plan.
You mean opt out the school district?
Opt out of the school district.
Is that like Texas wanted to leave United States and become their own country?
I wouldn't call it that, actually. I would call it the same thing that we see across the country with smaller districts that are functioning better in serving students. We know it's possible because we're the 5th largest in the country. So why not, if a township wants to opt out and better serve its students, come up with a plan, they could still be part of certain services from the district. If they wanted to take the transportation or the food services, they could still do that, subcontract out. But it just gives the community an option to serve their students in better ways.
So earlier you had said that you were comparing to other school districts across the nation. And where have you studied this, and where does it work?
Well, pretty much since we're the 5th largest, most every place it does work. We see that there are a few large districts that do well, but the majority of the time the large districts aren't performing as well. So,
well, I mean specifically though, what comparison, instead of just saying that it works better.
For example, in Colorado, where I'm from, the population of Colorado, they have about 210 school districts.
Colorado's been on the news lately.
I'm sorry, and I went to college in Boulder. I'm a CU 1982 alumni, so my heart breaks for the people in Boulder. And I shopped at that Supers.
We should have done a moment of silence for those.
We should have, because we can do it at the end. Can we do it at the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
Remind me.
I will remind you. So in Colorado, they have 200 and some school districts within the state. And they tend to be around communities. Jefferson County, Arapahoe County, Boulder County have school districts. So you have, for example, the largest school district in Colorado might have 132,000 kids in it, where we have 360,000 kids in one school district. Florida, I will say what Dr. Jara is from, where he came from. He was in the Orange County School District, and they had about 135 school districts, I believe, 151 school districts, everywhere from 500 kids in a school district to 100,000 kids in a school district. So we are very unusual to have only 17 school districts in the entire state. And Clark County, has to service one school district, 360,000 children that are from all sorts of different diverse backgrounds and different situations. So this isn't anything new. It's been done more often than not.
Ms. Dawson, I'm sorry, but just quick thought. Did they find those 90,000 kids that they couldn't find because of COVID?
Right. And you saw that it took a while, right, to be responsive. But yes, I do believe so. I mean, the engagement is very difficult right now, and kids are tuning out. I want to talk one more thing about Colorado, since you mentioned it. I was able to do a month-long study in Colorado of their schools in Denver. And the great thing about Colorado is that they have a choice system that you can go and say, okay, the first school I want to go to is this school right here that I'm zoned for. The next one I want to go to is the charter across the way. The third one is this district school over here because they have a STEM program. They allow, that's science, technology, engineering, math, those kind of things. A science-based school, science and math. I was a science math person. So, you have the option to get to the school that you want to do. And so that's really what we're trying to do, is create options for parents and students to actually be educated. And we know that the pandemic has shown that as our students are not back in school in CCSD, the ones that are suffering the most are our students with special needs, our students that are in our poverty schools that, don't have access to the same resources that they normally would through school. And so it's really important. Some people say, well, this would exasperate the equity and access, but really we're already seeing those things right now, and we're not meeting the needs of students. And we're seeing communities take this initiative in their own hands. And again, this isn't forced on anyone, and it wouldn't be an immediate thing, but if a community wanted to be a smaller district and better serve their students, then they could.
So the purpose of CSI is to do what?
Is to give a township or a community the ability to opt out of the district, to make it smaller local control to serve their students without having the huge decision making.
But didn't they try to break up the school district a while back? I mean, I remember when Kenny Gwynn was superintendent, they talked about it, but nothing happened.
Go ahead. But in 2015, it was 2015, the Incline Village tried to break away from the school district in Washoe, and they brought a legislative, and Bob Miller, Governor Miller was the governor, and they brought this forward that they felt they could better serve their students by breaking away, and it actually passed. It passed the assembly, and it passed the Senate, and Bob Miller vetoed it. So we've been down this road before. And then the reorg, which I was involved with, and so was Annette, that was really to try to give autonomy to the schools, to give a principal autonomy. I serve on the SOT at Bonanza High School, so I can attest to the fact the autonomy has worked. We have a much better school today at Bonanza High School than we did before. But that's not enough. We're finding that's not enough. And so the idea here is that if we allow communities to decide, this is too big to deal with. So let's say Henderson said, I want to become my own school district. So you'd have the Henderson County School District or City of Henderson School District. They'd have the same number of schools. The schools would stay there. Everything would be there, but they'd have their own superintendent, board of trustees.
They got to get their own grant money.
Their own what?
Grant money.
Their own grant money. But remember, the money will follow the students. So those schools are still going to get the money that they did in this opt-out. But what we're trying to do with the initiative is to get legislation introduced into the legislature. If we can get something this session, even discussing, that's a big win, but really working toward getting an NRS that would allow for this.
So how would that work with the school board? I mean, would they have their own school board too? Let's say this initiative passed and they opt out. Would they have their own school board as well?
Yes. Yep. In Colorado, you have the Jefferson County School Board. And in some districts, it might be only 3 people. Might not be 7 or might not be 5. They would have their own superintendents.
Well, you need 3 to break the tie.
3 to break the tie. Or, 5 or 7 or whatever. But that would be up to the school district. As in Moapa Valley or Overton, if they became a school district, I would guess they'd have 3 people on their school board.
But would that change the whole structure of what's going on now? Because we have a Clark County School Board. I mean, what would happen to the school board if, let's say, Henderson gets an opportunity out?
Let's say that, because right now Moapa actually has a community education advisory board right now that functions, right, and supports the schools that are there. Henderson has one too, a community education advisory board. So it would just be that, or whatever that community decides, to have a board functioning and serving that community. The current board of trustees would still exist for whoever is still in the district, right? So again, it's an opt-out. And the thing is if every municipality wants it, and if every parent wants it, never do I meet a parent who says this district is a great size, it's working well, let's just keep doing what we're doing, right? Nobody says that. Most people are not very satisfied with the result that we're getting. The point is better outcomes for students. That's the whole point of it. So if every municipality wants it, every parent is wanting it, then we will continue. Like you said, didn't we try to do this before? We keep trying it till we find a solution, because sitting at the bottom and students not being served and students having no way to have access to good education is not a solution. And so that's why we push for these initiatives.
So how are you lobbying? You'd have to get the municipalities on board with the city council and the mayor, and then you have to get the school board on board. You have to get the superintendent on board. Then you have to go to the legislature and have them draft up a bill.
We have met with every municipality, and every municipality, as you see by their actions, they're taking education into their own hands now and serving their students. They would like the opportunity to have that option to come up with a plan and be able to serve their students in the way that they determine it.
And we have language. We have bill language. We have everything is ready to go. Now it's a matter of lobbying a bill, and if they would quit dropping new bills every day and actually have a deadline at the legislature, it'd be a little easier.
They extended the deadline.
Again, they did.
It's a different
So
session.
we are waiting and we're reviewing all of the education bills that are coming down the pike, which ones survive, and then looking at those to see if we can piggyback
So wait a minute.
onto
So
legislation.
you don't actually have a BDR
No.
regarding this.
No. I think
Why not? I mean, you being in politics,
I know.
Miss Mayo.
Because it takes the bold leaders to step up and make a change. People are used to staying with the status quo, and this is why we might want to talk about our launch with the parents. Yeah. This is why parents are so important as we launch together and demand that we're the constituents, and this is what the parents want, this is what the community wants, and then they'll perhaps be responsive.
So let me just rephrase my question then. Why hasn't this taken place like last year when the people were running for the assembly and bills were due in December, I think it was, and why hasn't this done before until now? Is my question.
Well, I think
isn't like a little bit too late now?
No,
for this
it's
session.
It's never
It's not too late for this session.
No, I don't think it's too late for this session. I don't. One of the things we're doing that we realized is you've got to have a large voice. I learned this with Save Red Rock. Remember, with Save Red Rock, we went and got 50,000 people to sign on and be part of our organization. And now Heather Fisher and that group do a great job with that. So we decided we've got to pull a coalition of parents. There's 360,000 students, so there's almost 1 million parents or guardians out there that we need to get a large number. So we're going to, on April 8th, we're going to have a press conference and launch a coalition of our group, CSI NV, and Power to Parent, Nevada School Choice, Break Up CCSD, and a host of other groups to come together and say, look, we're standing together and we have 360,000 students strong that deserve a quality and better education. I mean, you can't just sit at 50th for, forever. And if we were a basketball team
and
or a
brag
football
that you're
team.
Only 48.
And yeah, right, 48 or whatever, and it takes, sometimes it takes going all the way out to what some people may say the edge, and say, this is what we have to do to make a better system. And the thing is, to me, that's the most glaring, is that every other state does this. We're the outcast. And remember, 1956, a little bit of history here that I, in my research, found. In 1956, we had 271 school districts in Nevada. And in 1956, the legislature came in and divided us into 17 school districts. Now, I'm sure that their view in the future was not that Clark County was going to have 2 million, residents. I mean, back then we were, way out here in the desert. But at one point we did have 271 school districts. So in reality, we're just going back to where we started in 1956 and going back to what seemed to work there. So I think the time is now for this. And the reason the time is now is that I had 5 kids, all went to school, private school, public school. There's no one child that learns the same. Trust me, I know that. But with the pandemic, there are parents that never realized ever what it was to have that classroom there and what it takes and what your child has to do to finish an assignment. And this was certainly much more difficult than it was when you are in a classroom. But I think the awareness of parents of what the problems are, where the grading problems are so much more, they're much more aware of it and it's top of mind, that now is the time for us to talk to them about a solution, in my opinion.
The other thing that is great about this time is that for 50 years we had this same old funding formula, right? And now that is revamped. We revamped that. So
what
the
is
money,
the funding formula?
That is how education gets paid for.
I know, but how does the formula work?
The money now follows the student. So for instance, if I'm an ELL learner and I'm at your school, now you get extra funds for that. If I'm in GATE, you get funds for that. If I'm living in a poverty, or I'm at risk this way, you get extra funds for that. So the money follows the student to the community that they're in. So we've now fixed that, and we are working to properly fund education at the level it needs to. And so in the next 10 years, it will be at the level it needs to be adequately funding it. But we see better outcomes happening when schools are able to control their resources and be accountable for the outcomes.
Maybe they should fix the ESAs.
It's,
Or bring that back.
Whatever it takes, honestly, personally, I believe that that money, I pay taxes, right? So why am I having to be taxed and then pay for a private school too, right? Many parents are doing that right now if they have means. They're like, the kids aren't back in school, I'm putting them in a private school. They're being taxed and they're paying private schools. What's wrong with that money that you pay in taxes falling you for
Call the ACLU.
whatever you decide to do with your student?
That's what's wrong
Doesn't
with it.
that make sense? Well, this is what we're talking about. We need to be beholden not to unions. We need to be beholden to students, not systems, and to better outcomes for every child. So that money belongs to that child and their future and their education and
Absolutely.
that family.
So one of the things pro-district components always talk about is when you start having like choice schools or charter schools and stuff like that. So if you have a district school in an underperforming area or an urban area or like a rural area with low scores and that stuff, if you have these at-risk youth or ESL learners or what other kind of special needs, if they now have a choice and they leave that area that they're in, that they're normally be zoned for district-wise, doesn't that school lose out?
Tell you what generally happens when a charter school locates next to a district school that is failing, the district steps up its game, right? Because they want to keep their students in their school. If they're smart, they say, what is that school doing that I need to improve on? So I keep my students there.
Right.
So yeah, the competition. But no, a charter has to take any child. And honestly, charters are full of kids that are ELL or even, like I said, anybody can apply to a charter school. It's not like you can be selective. I mean, a private school is different, right? But a charter, you literally choose from the lottery and whoever you get is whoever you get. So it's a beautiful thing when a charter moves into a district school because now all those students have access to this, either one. So
Competition, we all know, all those of us in business and everything, competition makes everybody better. In school districts, the beautiful thing here in my vision to see this happen is that every school district is so good. All the school districts that opt out are so good that nobody has to look to move to another school district to a better school. Oh, I don't have to move from Summerlin to Henderson for a better school because our Summerlin schools are every bit as good as that. Or I don't have to move from North Las Vegas to Henderson because my schools are every bit as good as that. That's the thing that we want is for all, so through this, every school rises to a higher level and then we start giving children their testing better and we can get out of the bottom of ranking and start to move up. Somebody asked me the other day about this and said, okay, Lisa, what do you really think? Like what number is a good number for you for the school district to get to that you'll think that this is successful? I said, I'd like to see us in the top 25 because I know before when I moved here 30 some years ago or 30 years ago, we were ranked higher. The school districts were ranked higher. And when I moved here to build houses, it was just why we moved here. That was one of the things I looked at. And I says, if we be in the top 25 and stay there, I'll feel like my hard work and what I've really advocated for is a success. And that's what I would think. I'm not saying we have to be number one or number two. I'll take the top 25. Oh, I would love that. Sure. But for me, as old as I am, I'm not sure if I would live long enough to be number one, but because it's a lot of work to get there. And we understand that. But I'll take top of 25.
To be ranking is all about testing, right?
Not all. It's not all about that.
What other criteria are involved to move up in the ranks?
I'd have to, the national ranking is different than our star school ranking that we rank here. But you have to have this testing. You have to have a certain number of graduation kids that graduate. How many kids go on to college? How many kids perform in math? Where do you perform in math and reading and the core English? All of those things are looked at. And I would love to be number one. But that's not to say that one of this, maybe Overton and Moapa moves to number one, or Henderson moves to number one, and they're number two. But overall, my thing was I just want to be in the top 25. I think that would be great.
I think, and it doesn't even have to be like we talk about district charter competition. It can be collaboration. What do good schools do? And learning from each other and putting those practices in place. For a long time in Nevada, we did not test our students regularly at regular intervals to know what they're learning and what the gaps are. You have to have accountability for your outcomes. What happened for a long time in Nevada was at the end of the year, the kids tested. They moved on to a new grade. The new teacher didn't even, really know their results or see it. But now we have to, and especially with the pandemic, we have to make sure that the kids are supported and on grade level and ready when they graduate. If after 13 years in our system, our school system, if they don't graduate ready, that's on us. And so it's the accountability for every school. And you might have a school that's not doing well. So you look at it and you put the supports that they need in place. But good schools, just like good businesses, do certain things to improve the outcomes. And
but this self-serving that kids have to learn on their own, basically, is really damaging their grade levels. So everybody's grade levels is dropping.
Yeah, the learning over this past year is about 70% of what it would be in a normal year. And so, we don't even know like the effects of this and the loss, not to mention like the social emotional issue. I mean, I know my own son was struggling because he's trying to learn trumpet virtually, right? He's just started middle school. He's not getting a good grade. It's really disturbing him. He's really frustrated and upset. I'm not necessarily going to spend my resources during a pandemic to go get him trumpet lessons and do this, right? I'm just telling we just have to deal with it. But, they've got kids that are ready to head on to college and are having trouble with their grades. And it's been a difficult time for many students. And so we're very mindful of the emotional health of our students. And that's at the forefront as we're trying to get them back to normal.
Yeah, mine is teaching herself Spanish.
Yeah, right.
But
and not that teachers aren't working hard, because they are, right?
Is there going to be any graduation? I mean,
well,
because there's a lot of kids that are not at grade level to graduate. So what are we going to do? Are we going to push them up to the next grade level?
Well, the beautiful thing that I hear coming forward in the legislation, and I just testified on behalf for some of that, is back on track. So some summer programs for our most needy students to help them get back on track, to understand that learning loss that has occurred, and then come up with programs. And some places, this again, studying across the country, they do this regularly anyways for students who need help getting back on track to their grade level that they need to for the next year, or pre-K or whatever it is. So we're having to think in new and innovative ways, but these things are coming forward because we're going to have to address this learning loss and be able to make sure our students, because this is important for our economic recovery as well, right? And the whole well-being of us in Nevada.
Ms. Mayo, what legislator do you have sponsoring this?
I don't have anybody yet. But we're not I'm not looking for a sponsor. I'm looking for a bill to attach. And I will tell you,
you're still going to need a sponsor to piggyback on a bill, because if I have a bill and you want to piggyback on my bill, then I have to be your sponsor, right?
Yeah, and there's a couple of bills. They were watching all these bills come. I would say there's probably two we've looked at that are appropriate for us to go and ask to have our language included in a bill.
It sounds like a pork. You know, the president of the United States, and they're talking about Congress, and they you want a bill for X, Y, and Z, and all of a sudden this congressman over here, he wants $200 million for some fantasy club in his state, and they call that pork.
You know as well as I do that all through the session, people will come in and add language into bills. It happens every day and all the time, that you'll add some language in. You see it all the time. So we're just looking to say, and I'm not saying all our language would get in to this at this time, but enough of the language to start a discussion.
And what language are we talking about? Give us a few. This is a visual audio show.
This is a visual. I forgot we're on Facebook.
And it's going to be on YouTube, by the way.
Oh, good. Well, it's lengthy. I don't want to read. So let's just
give us some
let's
bullet
just
points.
Let's just talk about what the mission is.
Something that's going to make, if a legislator is out there watching the show right now, something's going to make a legislator want to call you up and say, "Hey,
that's a good idea."
So what do you have to offer them? Well, why should they get involved?
Well, let's look at the definitions. Community school districts. Just definitions. A community school district is a school district created pursuant to NRS 386. That already exists. A community is a political subdivision as defined by NRS 357.030, or local government is defined in NRS 354.474. A community school district is a school governing body created by a community consistent with the community recognized boundaries. Community right. Each community has the right to opt out of the county school district and create a new community school district. Creation of a community school district, and I can go on with that. But that's essentially what it is. Let me stop you right there.
What would give them the right to opt out? I just feel like opting out today.
No. You have to. That's a great point. You have to come up with a plan, just like a charter school. It doesn't just get a charter handed to it. It's got to come up with a plan for everything and a budget, right? and they have to know how they're going to handle every little detail. So you're going to have to come up with a plan. The community will come up with a plan of how they are going to better serve their students, how they're going to follow the budget, what they're going to offer. They're going to have to be responsible, just like you would in a district. And then you present that to the Board of Education, who may or may not approve it. They may say, go back and this is lacking. No, you're not able to pull this off.
Have you spoken to the Board of Education?
We've spoken to pretty much everybody, yes. And there is huge support for this
Except for
all
a
around.
legislator.
No, well, you know what? There are legislators actually are for this. Many legislators are for this, but it takes a bold legislator in a pandemic to say and to step forward and do this. And we aren't just picking any legislator because we want it to be bipartisan, right? And so you talked about, this that you tried this before. No, we're going to continually be pushing this until there's solutions that better serve students. And this is the best way for us to serve students right now.
So what did the Board of Trustees say, and who did you speak to on the Board of Trustees?
The Board of Trustees are not who we need to check with. The Board of Trustees, we're talking more about Department of Ed, state people like that. The Board of Trustees would still stay intact, right? That's like asking Walmart if they're okay you put a Target here, right? I mean, I'm not going to go to the Board of Trustees, but honestly, there are some trustees that I think are okay with it. Honestly, here's the whole point. It's not about the system, right? It's about students. So we find that the people who are not for it are generally people that lose their power, like a union, right? Anybody who's making a decision based on what better serves a student is for it. Now,
is the teachers union for it?
Well, what do you think the teachers union be?
They say, hell no.
Well, and here's the beautiful thing. Like, you could even work, if the teachers union is smart, they'll work with you because they can still have access to all these different districts. They might just have to go do a few more presentations. They can still have the teachers, and the contracts can stay in place so we don't create havoc with teachers going everywhere, right? There's ways to put this in place so that it creates stability for everyone, right? But if you're Walmart, you're right. Do I want to go have like several little mini Walmarts? Probably not, right? But I don't know.
They got neighborhood Walmart.
Exactly, they do. And what a great idea. So honestly, we're looking for people who are making students the priority and outcomes improving and not the systems. So the pushback you're going to get.
But if you create these municipalities, wouldn't that cut off the financial incentive to the Clark County School District, the whole?
No, because you're able to still have the funds.
Everybody's going to think about their pocketbooks. They're not going to think about the kids.
You know what? You still can serve a whole big group of students, and this doesn't happen like overnight. So maybe one group opts out, right? And you can better serve your students. To be real, I have teachers that teach at a public school, and a charter will come into their neighborhood, and they're like, "Thank you, because now my class sizes are not so like overcrowded."
Right.
Yes, and so it actually provides some relief in certain ways, and you're able to pay attention. With the reorg, when we first did the reorg, the idea was that there would be one school associate superintendent responsible for 25 schools, right? So they could pay attention to the results. We're not complying with that. We're out of compliance with a lot of things. And so it's accountability and just being able to, for some people, it's relief, like, oh, good, you take that opportunity and you run with it. Henderson's doing that a little bit now. North Las Vegas is doing that a little bit now too. And so it's just another extension of that and allowing that. And again, it's not forced on anyone. It's just an option.
So right now, Jesus Jara is the superintendent
Yes.
of the district.
Yep.
Now, so this is Clark County School District, right? Let's say Henderson wanted to opt out.
Mm-hmm.
That's Henderson, right?
Mm-hmm.
So would he lose that much of his pay?
Well,
because that's exactly what he's probably going to be thinking.
And
I'm going to lose that.
Am I going to make a decision based on one superintendent? If I'm really the type of superintendent that's all for kids and better serving kids, and I have a community that wants to opt out, I shouldn't be able to hold them hostage.
Well, tell that to his 2,500 Pendleton bike. He sounds like a guy that wants the money.
Maybe
for himself.
Yeah,
but remember, Dr. Jara came from a system in Orange County, Florida, was exactly like we're advocating for. He came from exactly the same system.
Well, that's why he's not there. That's why he's there, because he's not like that.
I think he was selected to come here, and I think he came here, I hope, and I've met with Dr. Jara, I really do think he came here to see what he could do to help students. I really do. I think that's why he came here. And he ran into the Titanic that you're trying to...
Well, he still lives in Florida. His wife hasn't moved there.
I don't know about that, but I do think, look, the decision in the opt out has nothing to do with the board of trustees. It has to do with the city council.
I'm all for the opting out
Yeah,
thing.
the city council will go and they, in the language, would vote, okay, we are going to form our own school district. And we're going to create, look at the city of Las Vegas. Carolyn Goodman has had an education committee at the city of Las Vegas. But even when she left the Meadows, at the city, she has an education division. How easy it for her to go and say, City of Las Vegas is going to have their own school district, and my education committee that's already been working on education is going to put together the plan. That's very simple, and they probably already know in their mind how they do something like that. So the decision is with the municipalities to vote to opt out.
I like the idea, but I'm saying, because I kind of know how this town works a little bit. There's a whole lot of politics is going to be there, and there's going to be a whole lot of people saying, "Oh, we don't want that," and it's not because they're saying it because they're looking out for students. It's because they're looking out for their power, and they're looking out for their own pocketbook. So they're all going to be self-serving.
That's why we want parents and voters to be on our side in big numbers.
They are.
And they'll
They
spin
are on
it.
our
They'll
side.
say how bad this thing is, and they're going to give me lack of oversight, or they'll come up with some crap.
But they have
to make
49
voters
other
curve.
states that are going to say, oh, but it works here. Oh, but it works here. Oh, it works fine here. And those 49 states are all ranked above us, or if you believe we're 50th or 48, but they're all ranked above us in performance. So how do you argue that? How do you say, oh, no, but it works everywhere else, and it should work for us and our students and our kids. I have 5 kids that are 4 college graduates, 1 almost on the way, 2 more years, 5 college graduates. Now I have my grandkids I have to worry about. They're the ones now that I'm
That's why they got
fighting for
parents.
this. That's why they have parents.
Yeah.
They have great parents, but probably not as dog determined as their grandmother is.
Yeah.
So.
Our students deserve better. And so
They
even if it's not this, we have to change the mindset that we can't. It is so possible. And if not this, then what is the solution? We cannot continue
Throw
to
money
keep
at
doing
it. That'll be the solution.
Yep.
that they will
Well,
say.
no, because we know that money doesn't solve it. And the charters are a great example of that, of
Right.
doing more with less money. So whatever it is that we need to do, we're going to do it. And the parents aren't going to sit by anymore. And this is the momentum that we have during the pandemic, where everyone is frustrated and exasperated, that we are bringing that together, and we're not going to stop. When you say, didn't they try that a while ago? Yes. We waited too long not to keep trying it again and again and again until we
Well,
have
you need
better
to tell them the
outcomes for
definition
students.
of insanity.
Right. Exactly. That's the whole point. And this is a time for innovation and acting in new ways. So we have to change that mindset. Just because we've always done this doesn't mean that we keep doing it. It's not working.
That's it.
That's it.
Any other devil's advocate questions you want to ask? Because these are good. It's good to have people.
So
Remember, we always learn more from our adversaries than we do
Right.
from our friends.
So the regulatory that would be in charge of who would approve or decline the opt-out would be the department. Okay. And that structure wouldn't change under this plan, right? It wouldn't be divided or
Nope.
anything like that. Stay intact.
Right.
Okay.
So, Miss Mayo, Miss Dawson, I want to thank you for coming on the program. But, Mayo, I need you to look in the camera and tell folks, if you're talking to a legislator, why they need to sponsor this bill.
If you're a legislator and you're listening to this, you need to call myself, Lisa Mayo, or Annette, and tell us that you have a bill that we could attach our language onto, because one size does not fit all on school approach. And our kids, every child, all 360,000 kids in this district deserve a quality education. And we can do this, I believe, through this type of opt-out, smaller school district, more manageable school district process.
Your point of contact.
Our point of contact is, what's our Gmail? Oh, I don't know what our Gmail is. You can just get a hold of me at 702-403-7779.
Miss Dawson, the same thing. But I want you to reach out to the parents and to reach out to that school board and see what they will come back to you
We
and
have
say.
reached out to some schools. To the camera.
To the camera.
Yes, yes.
To the camera and give your point of contact if you
Yes.
want.
Again, we would advocate that we make decisions for students and not systems. And we would invite you to join with us on April 8th at 4 o'clock in front of the Legislative Building, where we'll be uniting as parents to ask for better outcomes for all of our kids. So, and you can reach me at my phone number, I guess we'll just give out the phone number, 702-336-5149. Anytime.
I'll call you later.
Yeah, great. Yep, you'll be there on April 8th.
April 8th. Yeah, April 8th. We
Come
are
and join
having
us. We're very excited because, like I said, it's the right thing to do. And I never meet anyone who says this is, a great sized district. Let's just keep doing this. It's working. It's just not.
Well, everybody knows a smaller classroom is more productive classroom than a larger classroom.
Our class sizes in Nevada are one of the largest,
Exactly.
yes, for sure.
Well, Miss Lisa Mayo and Miss Annette Dawson, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for coming on the program.
Thank
Steve, do you
you.
have anything for the two ladies?
Thank you so much for having us. It's
Yes.
this type of forum and this type of ability to get this out here that helps us to spread our message, and we really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Come back again. Let us know.
We'll give you an
Yeah, we can
update.
bring
Yeah.
the attorneys back who wrote this, and they could get into all the details.
Oh,
that
yeah,
you want.
great. I love attorneys.
There you go.
Bring them here. Folks, that's Lisa Mayo and Annette Dawson, who was talking about the Community School Initiative. And hey, I don't know about Steve over here, but I think it's a great deal. So we need to really pay attention and, stop doing the same thing that doesn't work. Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and expecting a different result. Larger classrooms does not work. So let's try something different. Why not? Let's try with one municipality and see what happens. Henderson maybe, or North Las Vegas, maybe even Mesquite, or go to Laughlin and see if it works over there, and just do a test run and see what happens, or somewhere in Reno or Carson, or Elkline or Washoe, and see what happens, and just see if it works, and if it works there, then we'll keep spreading it. But we got to try something different, and instead of doing the same thing all over again. This is Steve Sanson and Stephen Jones for Veterans in Politics. Until next time.